Hi everybody, how are you all? So today you didn't have any lessons. It was almost a Friday, and as it was reading day, we had given you some activities to do. We had given you a story, Homecoming by Rabindranath Tagore, to read and enjoy. And as a part of your enjoyment, you were asked to prepare a review of the story. Hope you had read and enjoyed the story. And of course, for some of you, it might be a new term to prepare a review. So I shall give you what are the things you have to make sure when you prepare a review. So actually there are some steps to be followed when you prepare a good review. A good review actually starts with the name of the work and the author, and talk something about the author, and later go through the summary of the chapter, mention the short summary of the work, later discuss what is more appealing to you, what is something, if there is something to be criticized, just mention those things, in what way that piece of work is relevant to the present situation. Those things can be shared. That's what actually a review means. And along with that, you have to express what is your opinion about reading this story, in what way it is appealing to you, and what do you have to share with the readers. Okay, that's what we expect from you as a review. Okay, dear ones, this story, Homecoming, is a deeply touching story, no question about it. And it is written by Rabindranath Tagore, a very famous Indian who has received Nobel Prize for his writing, the first one to receive Nobel Prize from Asia in literature. Okay, and he received his Nobel Prize for his poem Gitanjali. And actually Rabindranath Tagore was not just a poet, and he's a very talented man. He was a multifaceted writer, a poet, a short story writer, and a fiction writer too. And along with that, he was a painter too. So in many ways, he is well known to the world, and his writings has such touching qualities, because though all those stories were taken from life related to him. The story Homecoming is a story of a 14-year-old boy named Fatik Chakravarti, who is taken away from his home to his uncle's, and who feels serious homesick, who misses whatever he enjoyed in his country life, and he wanted to come back, and his struggles to come back to get a homely feeling, and his miserable failure in his attempt. That's what the story in short. So in the story, if we talk about the summary of the story, we can see the story begins in a river bank where Fatik, the ringleader, stands with a lot of children, and they decide to make some fun. As a part of making fun, they decided to roll a log which was left there, and in their attempt to make fun, his brother Makan Chakravarti comes and he sits on the log, and for Fatik it was unbearable, because he was the ringleader. He can never be defeated by anyone, and Fatik thought he can make more fun by having his brother there on the log, and he, along with his friends, they tried to drag the log, by which Makan falls down, he got injured, he got infuriated, he comes running towards his brother Fatik and beats him, and he runs towards his house. And Fatik, after all this fun, his friends were overjoyed, they enjoyed this incident a lot, but Fatik was not that happy to see this because he is very well aware of the aftercoming, the consequence that he is to face. So he was not going to home for that time. He was waiting there for some time. Later, when he goes home, he finds his mother very much angry towards him. She was infuriated because his brother explained everything what happened on the river bank, and her mother beat him very badly. And his mother was not ready to believe whatever he says. So this is the condition of Fatik. He never feels any kind of happiness there at home. So his inner mind always wants to feel at home. That's why it is homecoming, this story. So in his own house, he doesn't feel at home. Okay, then later we see his uncle pays a visit to his house and inquires about studies and all. Fatik's mother says, Fatik is a perpetual nuisance. He doesn't study well, he always makes trouble, and at the same time, Makan, the much favored and pampered child, he's a very cultured, studies well, and the mother praises Makan, and at the same time she blames Fatik for all the troubles that is made there at home. So the uncle offers his sister to take Fatik to his home. See, hearing this, Fatik also was so excited because he was not feeling at home here with his mother's blaming always. Mother scolds him always, and he was not feeling at home. He was not happy there. So he also was on cloud 9 hearing that he is going to be taken to Kolkata. And he tries to make peace with Makan. He gives all his belongings, his kites, his fish rod, and his marbles, everything he hands over to Makan, and he leaves for Calcutta. And this is also said to be a homecoming. He expects that at Calcutta he will be feeling at home, but what he finds there was, to his dismay, he finds his aunt was not much pleased to see him, because she thinks that he was an unnecessary addition to his family, because she has already got 3 children to look after, and along with them he is an unnecessary addition. And Fatik felt alone there, discomfort, and he tried to make his aunt happy by all the means he can. Whenever his aunt asks him to do something, he overdo it so that he can impress, but he miserably fails. And later he is taken to the school in city school. He does not find it there easy, especially along with his cousins, and he is named to be the dullest child, the weakest child in the school, who is not able to make there. And to make the situation worse, he loses his textbook, and he was not in a state that he can share with his aunt to buy him another textbook. So he is fed up with his life there, and he wanted to go back to his country life. He misses whatever he enjoyed there. He was the ringleader there. There were a group of children with him there, and he had his own happy time spending with his friends, swimming in the river, playing marble and kiting, and so many funs he was having there. But here he is considered to be a black sheep. He's neglected always. And even his cousins started to criticize him, started to neglect him, and he wanted to go back to his house. And he asked his uncle, "Uncle, when are we going back?" The uncle said, "Wait until the vacation comes." So he frequently asks his uncle, "When does the vacation start?" So much agitated, bearing the pang of the negligence in mind, at last he decided to run away from the house. And once he was not seen, and they searched everywhere. Later they informed the police, and the police went in search of this boy, and they found him somewhere, and they dragged him, and it was overpowering outside. He got wet everywhere, and with his desire to go home, he was not ready to come back, but the policeman dragged him to the house, and suddenly, very soon, he becomes sick, and he started to talk things which has not any connection with the situation. At last, the doctor says he's delirious, his condition is getting so worse. And the uncle sends for his mother. Then the mother comes. When the mother comes, the mother feels very sad to see his son in such a situation. And she calls him darling, darling, for the first time. He has never heard his mother calling him that name by the word. And she flings herself on the bed, and later he says to his mother, "Mother, at last the vacation has come." That's how the story ends. So this story leaves a great pang in the heart of the reader. The last word haunts every reader very frequently. Okay, so that's the summary of the story. In this story, Rabindranath Tagore tries to convey what are the difference between country life and city life. When Fatik was in his village, he was enjoying all kinds of happiness there. There was no bound for his happiness, spending time with his friends, and all those things he missed here in his city life. And in city life, even though there are so many good schools, the schooling was some kind of stereotyping. The teachers, instead of finding his abilities, they find his disabilities, and they punish him mercilessly. That's what happened with Fatik at school. And the other thing, the most important thing which appealed to me is Rabindranath Tagore tries to express what are the problems faced by an adolescent. Fatik, being an adolescent boy, he is not considered to be a child because he is more than that. He's physically, and there is change in his voice. His whole voice become more hoarse or rough, and so he is not considered to be a child, and at the same time he is not considered to be a grown-up too. So it's a confusion into which category does he belong. That is an identity crisis that he faces at this so time. The author uses a wholesome paragraph describing what are the difficulties faced by an adolescent child. He is not fruitful and he is not ornamental. He uses those words to explain an adolescent child. Because at this time, people long for love and consideration. That's what happened with Fatik also. He wanted to be loved. That's what he missed everywhere in his own house and in the house of his uncle. He didn't receive a bit of love. That made him alone. Even though there were so many around him, he feels the alienation there. He was alone. So this thing is emphasized through this story. And the other thing in this growing world, parents fail to understand the heart of their children. For some silly reasons, they try to avoid them forever. That's what happened with him. So Rabindranath Tagore put so many bits to think over. So this story is deeply touching and at the same time thought-provoking. This story is written in simple language and easy to understand, and in the simple language it tries to convey a very powerful message to the humanity. So anyway, it is a worth reading story, and whoever missed this chance to read, spend a few minutes to read this story and enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.